Where's the big firmware update, the big Canon EOS R5 firmware update, the one promised back in March? Is it still on the way? Has it been cancelled, delayed, or scaled back? Stick around after this short break for everything we know. But first, subscribe to this channel for a chance to win a Canon EOS R5. I'll be giving one away to one lucky subscriber once this channel reaches 100,000 subscribers. Anyone above the age of 18 with a valid mailing address is eligible. Additional terms and conditions are linked in the description down below. I get so many questions asking for an update on that big Canon EOS R5 firmware update. Not as many as related to third-party lenses, but a lot. And this video aims to address all those questions on everything we know. Now, some of the comments, well, people are very angry at Canon, but I'm not sure why. After all, we've received over 10 firmware updates since July of 2020, providing minor updates, but also providing Canon Log 3, Cinema Raw Light, 120 frames per second in 1080, dual card recording for video, a major update to the autofocus system, and firmware 1.6 with the auto power temp off now allows us to record almost unlimited in 8K video at 30 frames per second RAW or 4K HQ. It all started back in March with a story by Canon Rumors saying that we're getting a big Canon EOS R5 firmware update. And in that firmware update, these are things we should be looking for: pixel shift, pre-shooting buffer, lens breathing compensation, and many updates to the autofocus system, including the ability to have better subject detection, not just of people, but also more animals being detected as well as vehicles. But of course, the big one for many that shoot video with the Canon EOS R5 was the lifting, the removal of that much annoying 30-minute record limit. Shortly after that story by Canon Rumors, Canon released firmware update 1.8.1, skipping 1.8.0 with pixel shift. And instead of appreciation, people were upset. Where's my big update? No motion composition like the A7 R5, and pixel shift is not nearly as good as the Sony A7 R5. And the Canon EOS R5 firmware 1.8.1 did promise us, well, IBIS high resolution, Canon's version of pixel shift with 400 megapixel images. And while it certainly does deliver 400 megapixel images and the file sizes are definitely there, they're huge, over 250 megabytes, one thing I noticed in testing, while there's an awful lot more detail there, I can honestly say that it's more like there's double the amount of resolution rather than quadruple. So while it might be 400 megapixels, I would say we're getting about 100 megapixels worth of information. After that update, Canon Rumors was quick to update us, saying that we've been told that future firmware updates are coming. It was suggested that there would be 2 more feature updates for the Canon EOS R5 before the end of 2023, with the final version being the big 2.0. Now, what's significant about the story at Canon Rumors is that, well, a couple of things. Number one is that we are supposed to get 2 firmware updates before the end of 2023. It didn't mention August, it didn't mention September, it didn't mention any other time. And the other significant thing, that one of those firmware updates would be a big one, a 2.0. So here we are, we're in August. In fact, we're at the end of August with September next week. And since April, we haven't really heard anything else about that firmware update. We heard lots of information in March, going into April, and then absolutely dead silence, nothing. Nothing in June, nothing in July, and so far, nothing in August, leaving many to wonder, with all the talk about the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, are we getting any update to the Canon EOS R5? And I'm pretty sure we are. Again, what Canon Rumors has said hasn't changed. And so if we're looking at 2 firmware updates before the end of 2023, I think the most likely time frame for the first one is sometime in, well, September. And that one, I would expect it to be a minor update, with the big one coming, well, at least 90 days after that. So maybe late October or sometime November, but we could also get a firmware update in December, as we did a couple of years ago, with firmware 1.5 for the Canon EOS R5, giving us much needed improvements to vehicle detection, torso detection, eye face detection, and of course, if you're doing motorsports, to be able to take into account helmets on people. Canon Rumors, rating this as a CR2, says that we've been told that future firmware updates are coming. And it's been suggested that 2 more updates will come before the end of 2023, with one of them being the big 2.0. And what I want to stress here is that Canon Rumors is one of those rumor sites that doesn't take this stuff, well, lightly. They don't just constantly put out wild rumors of anything that comes in. I've known Craig for a very long time, and when he hears stuff, he tries as much as he can to validate it, and when he's hearing it from multiple sources, he puts it out there. So when Canon rumors are saying that we're supposed to be getting 2 more firmware updates before the end of 2023, well, I would take that to the bank. However, that doesn't mean that something hasn't changed. Something hasn't changed in the planning or scheduling as well resources become available or taken up by other projects. After all, Canon just finished providing firmware updates for a whole bunch of cinema cameras. The Canon EOS R5C, the Canon C70, the C300 Mark III, the C500 Mark II, and I think a couple of other cameras as well. So major updates there. And we're finally getting through summer. July and August are notoriously known for people taking vacations, and quite often we don't get a lot of announcements, we don't get a lot of firmware updates, with the exception of the last aforementioned cinema firmware update. But starting next week, as we approach September, we get our first major Sony announcement. And this announcement is expected to deliver 2 follow-ups to the A7C, the A7C II, the A7CR, and a 16 to 35mm GM version 2 with an f2.8. And that's going to help kick off the fall season. From usually about the second week of September right up until the end of October is where we get a whole bunch of major camera announcements from major camera companies, and that's when Photokina used to be. I do miss Photokina, don't you? So I think that it's very likely we'll get some announcements from Nikon, we'll get some announcements from Sony, we'll get announcements from Canon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if we're getting any announcement regarding the S1, the S1H, both Mark IIs. But we should also get a firmware update from Canon. I think September makes a lot of sense. This is not coming from any sources, but as we haven't received an update since, well, take a look right here, March of 2023, I think we're long overdue. So if we are still getting 2 firmware updates, yes, September makes the most sense for the next minor update, with a major update coming sometime late October, November, or early December. I'd personally like to see Canon fix that IBIS wobble that happens when you're shooting at wider than 35mm. Just look how shaky this video is. I should have shot at 35mm and I would have been okay. And of course, I'd like to see lens breathing compensation added to the Canon EOS R5, as well as finally the removal of that 30-minute record limit. And while this has been talked about for a very long time and promised in firmware updates, here we are at over 3 years since the Canon EOS R5 was announced, with the Canon EOS R5 Mark II due to be announced sometime in the next 6 to 8 months. So with all that going on, what do you think? Do you think we're going to get the removal of that 30-minute record limit? While Canon has removed it from other cameras, they've done so by simply just releasing a new camera model, not providing anything in a firmware update. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news and rumors regarding the Canon EOS R5 big firmware update, the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, or what's supposed to be announced later this year, well then go ahead and subscribe and make sure you choose all notifications. And don't forget, I'm covering live the Sony event on August the 29th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to stay up to date on all those minor news and rumors, then go ahead and follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, because I'm always tweeting out information, all information that isn't quite big enough to have its own separate video. Well, that's what gets tweeted out, as well as pricing information. And if you really do want to help support this channel and you're looking at purchasing anything from B&H and Adorama, please consider using my affiliate links down below. They don't cost you anything extra, and I get anywhere from 2 to 6% back, which really goes to help supporting this channel. I can't wait to purchase new gear for this channel. I've been saving up, I've been funding or waiting to fund the purchase of the Canon EOS R5 Mark II as well as the Canon EOS R1, and depending on what they cost, what should be my next camera? Should I get the Nikon Z8, the S1H Mark II when it comes out? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But that's it for now. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon.